what? It can blow up planets? Like, do these things exist? It's like, no,
No.
they do not exist. They're not going to come blow up the Earth.
Yeah, not yet. Until Bezos finally gets up there, yeah.
There might be some aliens out there. Who knows? Blowing up planets.
It's possible.
Their way over here.
Imagine Bezos making the Death Star with an even bigger penis ship. And then he'd have I got to make a pair of these things. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Not Your Father's Movies. I'm Jesse.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Vito, here with some original Greaser Bob energy. We are joined by Liz. Liz, do you have the same energy?
I can't say that I have dad energy as far as I know, but yeah, I used to, whenever people ask me if I have kids, I'm like, no, not that I know of. I used to say that to my students. They'd be like, what? And they'd be like, you just got like really messed up at some point in your life.
You have mystery kids?
That's a great response. How often do you get that? Is this like a regular occurrence? That doesn't ever happen to me. In fact, I took my son to the gym today so he could be watched. And the lady watching him was just like, is this your kid? I was like, well,
I've heard that happens to dads a lot because they just like assume that you're like not part of the picture at all.
You like walk in holding his hand. People are like, is this your kid?
I found this kid. Did you want this kid? I don't want this kid.
I mean, there's no way that you're not going to say yes. Like, who says no?
I don't know. She's like, well, sometimes people bring in their cousins' kids or whatever. I don't know.
I would not do that for my cousin.
Like, you procreated?
Congratulations. Sir.
Yeah. She was complimenting my son, so it was like she definitely couldn't compliment me because I was like sweaty after the workout or whatever. Anyway, but we're here to talk about our kids in the context of movies, most specifically in the context of modern westerns, because we love modern westerns, and the modern western we're here to talk about today is True Grit from 2010.
Are you a man with true grit, Jesse?
Of course I am.
Of course you are. Of course you are. Still are.
I don't know, spoken by a real LaBeef.
I mean, I think LaBeef should be a compliment, right? You're the big beef.
Oh yeah, the beef.
So why are we doing True Grit in our modern Western series?
I think that we decided when we were doing all this that we were going to do 3 or 4, right? And then we cut out one, and we're like, all right, we're going to lock down these 3. We're going to get Unforgiven, the father of the revisionist genre, from the father of the revisionist genre, right? And then we decided we would do 310 emojis, like a rough and tumble cross of both the old school and the new. And then the True Grit, which is like a remake, not a remake. It's another movie based on the same novel. And it's very different from its predecessor. But that movie was like historical for John Wayne and for Westerns as a whole. And it's weird seeing it done in a different way. At least that's why I was interested in doing it. What did you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Coen Brothers Western is definitely a modern Western. It came out in 2010, which is modern in my book. Yeah, it's a interesting take by some interesting directors of an old genre, of an old story. So it seemed to fit the bill real well. And
it's also one of Jesse's favorite movies. So,
I mean, I was going to hold back on that. That is basically the reason why I really wanted this movie. It's one of my favorites, and I wanted to slip it in somewhere. And so I think I came up with a series of modern westerns just to put this in here. Because I love this movie enough to do that. Yeah, and I grew up watching the original True Grit. And that's been a classic for me, and this one is even better. And I can't wait to talk about this even more. But also, Liz, I wanted to ask, why did you say yes to doing this movie with us?
Well, I love the Coen brothers. I think they're probably the best modern artists of our time. That's, I guess, redundant, but yeah, I just think that whatever they have a hand in is good because they just have this really great vision, and they always like pull in really obscure stuff too. Like I'm thinking about Inside Llewyn Davis. Their whole soundtrack for that is like picking from folk songs. Hail Caesar picks through like old Hollywood, and they just seem like they just have so much knowledge. Yeah, and I'm not usually a big fan of westerns, but I love True Grit, and I think they do a really great job with it. I haven't actually seen the original. It kind of surprises me to hear that you grew up with the old one and you still can say like, yeah, this is better. Because usually when you grow up with something, you're like, well, you're a little bit biased against the new thing. But yeah, this movie is just like, from the first time I watched it, I've seen a bunch of times now, but the first time I watched it, I was like enthralled with the whole thing.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad you're here to talk about it more. But before we jump into it all, Vito, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the Coen brothers and who else made this movie?
Absolutely.
That's some gritty energy right there.
This is very gritty.
I'm going to move the mic just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because you are the furthest from us. Oh.
He
really?
moved me.
Really?
You laughed, we cried.
That's terrible. That's one of the worst ones. I gotta come back.
That's so stupid.
So this is our second Coen Brothers movie after we just did Fargo for our detective series. Listen back to that one. We discussed them quite a bit there. What you should know is that on this movie, they are two brothers. They're directors, writers, and editors. As Liz said, like they're some of the foremost artists working today. I mean, there's been some rumblings that maybe Ethan is done working.
What?
Yeah.
I know that there was a Macbeth movie made, which I haven't seen yet. Was it just done by Joel?
Yeah, just Joel.
I wonder have you guys seen that?
It's not out yet.
I know that it's kind of like some people have somehow managed to see it, but
bastards.
Yeah, I know, I'm so jealous. I want to see it, but I also am like, just one of them. Yeah,
it makes me wonder, like who, like without both, what's it going to look like? Like who is the more idiosyncratic of either one? Like who is it that really drives the style?
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. Like, I wonder if they even have separate styles or if they push for different things. Because I always think of them as, like, just one mind.
Yeah. I actually have heard that they worked together, like, really well and that they always agreed on stuff. So it makes me think that it'll still be quality, but, yeah, I'm still a little bit wary of just one, not the other.
Absolutely. I think when we were doing the Fargo episode, in some of the research, we found that their writing styles that Joel would be writing and Ethan would be lying on his back smoking cigarettes, and they would just be talking in fragmented sentences back and forth, and then they would produce a screenplay.
Wow, that sounds like so much fun.
It does.
I would love that.
You get like a half a brain with your brother. But yeah, they've done such stuff as No Country for Old Men. They've done this. They've done Fargo. They've done a ton of stuff that you've probably seen or at least heard of. And if you want to hear us discuss more of their filmography, you can go back and listen to the Fargo episode. And then if you want to hear us sort of discuss a little bit more of their technique, wait until sometime in this one. But this is based on the novel by Charles Portis. This movie was nominated for 10 Academy Awards: Best Pick, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Lead Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Costume Design, Sound Mixing, Sound Editing. But this is also the year of The King's Speech, which was nominated for 12 Oscars and won for Best Actor, Picture, Director, and Original Screenplay. Kind of sad this one got shut out for so much, but it was kind of a crazy year. This is, I think, like the first or the second year the Academy allowed 10 Best Picture nominations. So there was a lot of movies in contention. We'll have to do 2010 an overview sometime because it's a wild Oscar race.
They're taking him to contention?
Exactly. This stars, though, Jeff Bridges, Academy Award nominated for his roles in The Last Picture Show, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, which is a weird nomination. Starman, also a weird nomination, The Contender. And he wins for Crazy Heart the year before this, nominated for this one, and also nominated for Hell or High Water, which is for sure a stay tuned. For sure. But he's also known for The Fisher King, The Big Lebowski, Tron, Iron Man. And next year is going to be in a limited series on Hulu called The Old Man.
Ooh.
With John Lithgow, where Jeff Bridges plays a retired assassin. Yeah, next year. We'll check in with that.
Yeah.
Following up, we got Matt Damon, who made his debut in Mystic Pizza, which is one of me and my wife's favorite movies to watch. And it rules, and everyone should see it. He plays a little kid, and it's weird seeing a Matt Damon face on like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, I was thinking back, and I can't remember him in that movie.
Oh, you seen that one?
Yeah, I did not like it.
What?
Get
out.
No, I just was like, okay. At the end, I was like, okay.
There's nothing mystic about the pizza. Is that what you didn't get?
No. I just like was not wowed by it, I guess.
That's a bummer.
Sorry.
That's a bummer. All right.
I was like looking for a chick flick,
Mm-hmm.
which it's not really.
It's not really.
So, maybe if I wasn't like, hungering for a chick flick, I would have enjoyed it more. But I was like,
it's actually like way more serious.
Yeah, exactly.
You tune into it and you're like,
Yeah,
oh, like
like,
early Julia Roberts. You're like, oh no, this
Yeah.
is sad.
I know. Yeah, that's right.
But then he's also in School Ties, Courage Under Fire, Chasing Amy, The Rainmaker, Goodwill Hunting, Saving Private Ryan, Rounders, The Talented Mr. Ripley, Titan A, The Ocean's Trilogy, The Bourne Trilogy, The Departed, The Informant, The Martian. Oh my gosh. Like it's kind of ridiculous how much he works. I found multiple years where he's in like 4 or 5 movies.
Wow.
He never stops. And then still this year, he's in No Sudden Move, Stillwater, and then upcoming The Last Duel. I can't wait to see what that's going to be like. Also, do you guys remember him in 30 Rock?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love that show. Yeah, he's pretty funny.
He's in 30 Rock?
He has like this. He's a pilot, and he's like
Oh,
love
yeah.
interest for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He plays Liz
but they're too
Lemon's
similar.
boyfriend for like
Carol.
3.
Yeah, Carol.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has
That's
some of the
crazy.
best lines too. Like when he's like, Liz, it just gets really hard flying to city after city, every single night a different woman, all meaningless. I just want grown-up love.
He's also in Interstellar. We forgot to call out that one.
Okay. Is that? I have a question about this. Seriously, is that a spoiler still? I feel like that's still a spoiler.
What?
That he's in it.
Because if you remember, he's not on any of the posters, and when we saw that movie, it was like a huge surprise that he was in it.
Okay, well, I haven't seen it, so I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't. Yeah, I'll have to see
Boy,
it. and be
oh.
like, you guys ruined it for me.
It's just mostly shocking because he wasn't advertised, and then you go like, oh,
I love
Hi.
that. But does he have like a major role? in
oh
it?
yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah. Since
But
we
he's
already
not in
spoiled
it a ton, is he? I
He's-
don't hardly...
He's in it for
That's
about
kind
20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool move because usually if you're making a movie with that big of a name, they're like, we're going to advertise this, but they kept it till I
No,
haven't seen it. but
didn't know. No one knew.
that's-
But
yeah,
I feel like that's just a
kinda
thing
cool.
that he does at this point. Like in No
Yeah.
Sudden Move.
Yeah.
Was he advertised as
Not
being in
not
that?
initially.
Yeah.
And then after the movie came out, then I started quietly seeing posters where
Okay.
it like lost his name and the other names, but like he shows up in No Sudden Move
Yeah.
as a really important character for half the movie, and you go like, oh, hi, Matt Damon.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like right at the end. The
Yeah.
end is long, but yeah. Yeah, he does that with other stuff. I mean, like with 30 Rock.
30 Rock.
Yeah.
He shows up in 30 Rock. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's cool.
Yeah, he really just likes to show up in things, I think.
Thor
Also,
Ragnarok.
he's in Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah, he's playing Loki
remember
in a
that.
little play that is happening
Oh
at
my
Asgard.
gosh.
And
Oh,
he
So
dies.
that's a major
Oh.
cameo. Wow.
It's like 1 minute.
That's so cool.
And then he
I love
dies
that.
in the play, and they're like, wow, like good job. It was amazing what you did. And Loki's like, it sucked.
There's a lot to be said about Matt Damon. I really like this guy, and he's in lots of things. I just realized maybe I don't like him that much because I've forgotten he's in most of these things.
Really?
It's
You forgot he was in the Bourne quadrilogy?
I knew that one. I knew that and like the Ocean's trilogy, but like I forgot he was in 30 Rock. I've
Well,
actually
that's
forgot
pretty
about
small, like-
Interstellar. Yeah.
I think that it's just the amount of work. Like you see someone like DiCaprio, you remember every DiCaprio movie because there's only one in every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But him putting out all this stuff all the time, constantly being a character actor or just popping in for a cameo, it's easy to just forget that he in the 90s there, from Courage Under Fire all the way over to Titan AE and Ocean's 11, like he was on an unbelievable streak of hits, and there was no stopping him.
Matt Damon, otherwise known as the rich man's Jesse Plemons.
Yes. Also known as Matt Damon.
I call Jesse Plemons the fat Matt Damon.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That my family calls him Fat Matt. Yeah.
Fat Matt. That's good. Poor Jesse.
Mhm.
Oh, that sucks for him. But he's a great actor. He's a great
And he's
actor with that
married-
one very specific role that he does in everything that he's ever in.
And he's married to Kirsten Dunst, though, so I don't know if we need to feel too bad for him.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, exactly. We can call him Fat Matt.
Yeah.
12-year-old me
Uh,
hates him.
Told you. Actually, on the same note, Matt Damon was probably my first celebrity crush. back
Nice.
in the day. Yeah.
Wait,
What was
which
it?
movie?
The Bourne movies. I was like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
So it was just the close cropped hair and just the expressionless face.
It was just like the general badassness of him.
Sticks that pen in the guy's hand.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
That fight
cool.
scene. That fight scene is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Damon.
Matt Damon's.
All hail.
He's the man.
I can't wait to do all the Bourne movies. Well,
I know.
3 of the Bourne movies. 3 out of the 5.
Yeah, it'll be yeah. Like I like Legacy. I do not like Jason Bourne. I do not like that last movie. That I saw that in theaters and wow. Maybe it's better than I remember it being, but I just remember being so disappointed.
Wait, which one is the one that that what's his name?
Legacy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one with Renner.
Renner, yeah.
Yeah. He's
Clint
okay.
Barton, but that's not
Clint.
I think I almost fell asleep in that one in the theaters. I have no interest in revisiting that one.
I have it up on my shelf in 4K. So I gotta try it at some point. Just because I bought it.
Just a
What
complete
made
collection.
you? All right, just out of curiosity, what made you say like I need the Bourne Legacy in 4K?
Because they were selling the box set of all of them and it was like $30.
Oh,
So-
that's like $10 per good movie.
Yeah. And I figured again I got these other 2 movies, so that's okay, I guess.
Yeah, that's like just 2 free movies in my opinion.
It's why I bought like the original, the OG Batman movies, like Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and then Batman and Robin. I got that for like $10 on Blu-ray. So yeah, $5 per good movie.
There you go. Is anybody else in this movie other
Yeah.
than Matt Damon? Because I
Josh
think
Brolin.
it's just Matt Damon.
Josh Brolin.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's just Matt Damon at this point.
It's unrecognizable, Josh Brolin, because he has a
Yeah,
unibrow.
he looks so different and he talks so differently. He's yeah. Yeah. I had to look it up and like look up pictures of him and be like, wait a second. And I was like looking at my phone and looking at the screen.
I was like, wait, that guy looks kind of like Josh Brolin. I wonder if I've seen him in anything else. And then it was Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin, if he had been like kicked in the head by a horse at a very young age.
Yeah, exactly.
But he started out in the Goonies, right? And then worked as a character actor for a long time, obviously a son of the famed Mr. Brolin. And he's also in the Valley of Allah. He did the Coens, he and the Coens worked really well together in No Country for Old Men. They said, thank you for starring in our Academy Award winning film. Would you like to come be the bad guy in our new film? And he was like, okay, I guess.
Wait, so sorry, No Country for Old Men was before True Grit?
Yep, 2007.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's also an American Gangster. You remember him as W Bush? Did you guys ever see that movie?
No.
I never saw
Oh
it.
wait,
No.
American Gangster. I did see that in theaters like years ago.
Nice.
So
I forgot he was in that.
And then he's also the bad guy in Milk. He's ostensibly the good guy in Jonah Hex, which I did watch just the other night because I was editing and really bored, and I wanted something that was on the screen. That was a really bad. That was a bad mistake. That's a terrible movie. That's really bad. But I'm only calling it out because I saw it like the last 2 weeks. He's also in Inherent Vice, Sicario 1 and 2, Hail Caesar, Deadpool 2, and of course he's Thanos. He's Thanos. The role of a lifetime. And we'll see him later this year in Dune. Okay, wait. Sidebar. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are all of you for Dune? Jesse?
Like an 8?
An 8, quite high.
Yeah, quite high.
I'd say 8 too. Yeah.
I hate to just go with the crowd, but I was gonna say 8 right before Jesse said it.
She had 8 first.
8's definitely the number for me. I read the book, loved it.
Oh, wow.
But have not read the others. Don't think I will. But I liked the book, and I think it'll be good. I'm stoked. I'm pretty stoked.
Am I also the only one in here that has not read the book?
I've read
You'll
it.
have to read it, Vito.
Yeah.
Wow, seriously?
I don't love the book.
Oh, really?
I feel, I don't know. I was looking for an awesome sci-fi epic where a lot of stuff happened, and it was an awesome sci-fi
It
epic
is
where
a little
not
slow.
a lot
Yeah,
happened.
that's a good point. It is kind of slow. Yeah, I liked the world building in it.
Mhm.
Like it was, and I was living in Phoenix at the time, so I was like, yeah, this is basically my life.
The spice. It's all about the spice.
It's this
I
really
was
hot
also doing
planet
some
where-
meth too, so, no, but it was there's just like the whole like the suits that they have to wear because it's so
Yeah.
hot and drinking everything that the water from your
Yeah.
body, etc.
Because that's what we do over in Phoenix.
Yeah, we do. We drink our own sweat in Phoenix. The water crisis is out of control.
The big worms.
The big giant worms.
Yeah, those are cool.
Nice. Okay.
Are
well,
you excited for this?
Yeah, how excited are you?
I'm about a 5.
Wow.
Yeah?
okay,
I'm about
that's
a
pretty
5.
low.
Is that because you think it's going to just totally fail?
No. I think that it's been sold to me as the first half of a story.
Yeah.
And for it already being like 2.5 hours long and there not being any guarantee of there being a second one, it kind of makes me like your rule about not starting fantasy series before they're finished, because like
I've
the
been
mistake
burned
I've
too many
made.
times.
Exactly. I don't want to be burned this time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty over how freaking long it has taken them to release it. They're like, because it's been done for
Like a year and a half.
Yeah, it's just freaking release it, man.
Yeah.
You gotta just do it. I mean,
But
I
they
know
want to make
nothing
sure they
about
don't
this,
lose
but-
money.
Yeah, they need their money.
I imagine it was incredibly expensive.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
That's a good point.
But anyway, I just wanted to do that sidebar because I just don't know how to feel about Dune. So thank you guys. I guess I will have to try and read Dune. Appreciate it. But coming up, we have a returning favorite here, Haley Steinfeld from listen back to our Into the Spider-Verse episode. We covered her career a little bit more there. Upcoming, she's in the Hawkeye show on Disney Plus. Is Kate Bishop, the new Hawkeye. See what that's like. But
you didn't mention your personal favorite movie of all time, Ender's Game.
That's right. Yeah. Talking about making movies from sci-fi books that aren't good. That one.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah,
that book is a
horrible.
classic.
And
but
it was never going to be a good movie, though. The book is like so cerebral almost, and
R-rated. It's so violent. It's like ridiculously violent. Remember, he kills that kid by beating him up in the shower?
Oh, I forgot. Oh no, I didn't forget about that. Yeah, no, he shoves his nose into his brain. Yeah, I remember that.
It's really violent. And then they come out with like the PG-13 Ender's Game. I'm like, it's not your father's Ender's Game.
In a bad way.
In a bad way.
In a bad way.
But rounding out everyone, Barry Pepper as Lucky Ned. We got Donald Gleason here playing Moon. Elizabeth Marvell as Adult Maddie, and J.K. Simmons as the voice of J. Noble Daggett. Yeah.
That's crazy. I never knew that. He's not even credited anywhere, at least in IMDb, so I had no idea that was coming.
It's nice to hear.
I knew I recognized that voice. Oh, that's so cool.
I like the
You don't
Coens
see
just
him.
keep bringing the same people, over and over and over again. Makes it feel like a family.
They're like the parents. I don't know, the incestuous gay parents of this giant family, I guess.
I don't know why you had to make it incestuous.
I mean, they're brothers, so.
Oh,
They're brothers.
I see. I forgot briefly. Well, thank you for the mental image. Fantastic.
You're welcome. I'm glad you appreciate that.
Final note I wanted to make is that this is shot by Roger Deakins, and it's beautiful. This is some of his best work, I think. Just really incredible stuff. Again, listen back to which one did we just do with Roger? Was that Fargo?
No,
I think it was Fargo. Fargo was the most recent one. Yeah.
See, guys, we're messing up here. We need to do more Roger.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's cool to see like the link between that and this. I definitely feel like it's visually very similar.
Yeah.
Can you say specifically how you see that?
The very big, wide shots of empty areas.
High contrast.
Yeah, high contrast, beautiful scenery, I guess.
Yeah, he also just the way that he kind of messes around with light. Like he talked a lot about how hard it is. He said the hardest shoot you can do is a night exterior, and they have to do so many night exteriors. And he was just talking about so for instance, the opening of the movie caused a lot of buzz, just that opening shot, because a lot of cinematographers were saying like that's the best shot of the year. How did you do that?
Of Fargo or
True Grit?
True Grit. Okay.
Yeah, the slow
Pan
undissolve
onto the corpse
Mhm.
in the middle of the night, and it's kind of snowing, and then the horse rides off, but it's like zooming in on the corpse.
He talked about how difficult that was to do and how difficult it was to even like set it up. And it's actually really important that you open your movie that way. I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but he does he plays with light so much that you can't help but notice how beautiful everything is, how well he captures faces in varying degrees of light. Yeah, he's wonderful. But anyway, sorry. And that's all I had, actually.
Yeah.
We could talk for hours about everyone that made it, because so many people put in so much work. I mean, obviously, because of all the Academy Award nominations. But
yeah. And honestly, I don't normally notice cinematography that much, but the way it is in this movie, and Dude, I don't know. It captures everything like perfectly. The best way to film a scene is the way every scene in this movie is filmed. And yeah, I guess I credit that to Roger Deakins now.
Yes, it's all him. The
Yeah.
Coens are just like, yeah, whatever. Just, yeah, that looks good.
And it's beautiful. And I'm glad they gave him that sort of leeway because this movie is amazing. Speaking of how amazing this movie is, let's talk about nostalgia.
Yeah, nostalgia.
Mike, you had mentioned earlier you didn't like this movie as much when you first saw it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I first saw it, I guess I saw it in theaters in 2010, and I had just watched the original because I'd never seen it before. And I was dating a girl at the time who just absolutely loved it. So we went to go see it together, and I don't know. I was kind of out on it. Maybe it had to do with the relationship more than anything. I don't know.
You're kind of out of it, meaning the relationship.
Yeah, maybe, and that's what it was. I hope not, but it just didn't. It didn't work for me for some reason. I guess I didn't have good taste when I was 20. I know I didn't have good taste when I was 20. But watching it now, like, oh my gosh, I loved it. I watched it with my wife this time, who was a different person from that person. And it was really fun to watch it with her. She loved it. It was a good time. Yeah. That's I don't know if I'd call it nostalgia.
Your first impression back when?
I feel like nostalgia is like a good sort of feeling. And that's just sort of like this is what happened.
A thing that occurred.
This is a thing that occurred. What about you, Liz?
My first impression. So whenever I watch a Western, I usually have the same response, which is like, I don't want to watch that. And it was with my family, and they're like, let's watch this Western. And I was like, okay. The thing is every time I watch a Western, I always enjoy it. I can't think of one that I was like, wow, I hated that. They're always good, but I always kind of dread watching them for some reason. And yeah, this one in particular, I think this is probably my favorite Western that I've ever seen. And I think it might just be because I like the female character in it. It's nice to have like a girl in a Western that's like not just like some piece of meat who's like, wearing a brothel outfit and,
Gets shaken a lot.
Yeah, it gets shaken. I mean, there is a lot of spanking in general, and there was spanking in this movie of the girl. So, I guess that's maybe not great. But...
He was threatened with death if he didn't stop, though.
Yeah,
that Texas
true.
Brush Popper.
Yeah, that is good. That's good. But yeah, I really like it's like the fish out of water, like this young girl with these dudes, and I think that's probably why I really liked it the first time I watched it, and have loved it. I think every time I've watched it since, I've liked it even more.
Nice,
cool.
So.
That's awesome.
I do love the fish out of water vibe in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It gives the whole Western like a slightly different perspective, because normally it's just like the rough and tough bad guy, or the guy who doesn't know anything rolls into town who's like happens to be a lawyer or something like that, and then he gets schooled by the cowboy guy.
Are you talking about the man who shot Liberty Valance again?
I am talking about the man who shot Liberty Valance. I know that exists in other movies. I can't remember which ones, but that is a thing, right?
Yeah. I'm not even being sarcastic. No, it totally is. I'm just having a hard time thinking of another one as well.
Yeah, it seems like a trope. Yeah, it's a trope. No. It's going to be a not your father's trope from now on. Yeah, it's definitely a trope. I say it is.
1 point determines a line, all right?
Yeah. Wow, that was really nerdy.
Thank you. Sometimes I do.
Anyway, yeah, I really like that. That's cool. What do you think about this movie, though?
I was actually super out on it the first time because I grew up in Wyoming, and in Wyoming, we worship God. We love God. Big on God. And another person that we're big on, though, is John Wayne.
John Wayne.
But John Wayne was so sacred to us all, to myself growing up, that, and also as a teenager, I was really big on shitting on Hollywood, me who knew nothing. And so I remember when the remake of The Alamo came out, obviously also remaking the John Wayne classic, The Alamo, I remember going to our barber, and the movie was so contentious in my state that my barber would bring it up like multiple times as pointing to like the crumbling of society. like I hear, you see that remake of The Alamo that they did? He's like, I don't even know if we won in that movie. I refuse to watch it. I don't know. And so when this one came out, talking to all my friends who all of us loved John Wayne, everyone was like, no, why would you do this? Don't remake John Wayne. It's not good. John Wayne movies are the best. How dare you? And so people went and saw it. And they're like, yeah, it was weird. It was a weird movie. It's just a weird Hollywood artsy movie. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Those are dumb. I hate those. And when I went to college, as usually happens when you're away from your original pool of people who influence your thoughts, I started to think a little bit differently. When I found out that the Coen brothers had done it, I was very begrudging, but I did watch it. I still didn't like it. Not that I liked the original True Grit very much, but I just liked John Wayne a lot. And it took me a little bit of time to come around. But when I did, I came around all the way. Like, this one is a 5-star for me. It's beautiful. It's incredible. And after rewatching the original one too, in conjunction with this, I got to say, yeah, that original one is not very good. not very good. That one's better in nostalgia. This one is better for any time that you want to watch it.
I gotta say, I do remember a lot of like remakes coming out then. I can't remember which ones there were, because now that I'm looking up famous remakes, none of them were the ones I'm thinking of, like The Amazing Spider-Man or the other superhero one, Fantastic Four, which came out 5 years after this. But like, I remember there being a mentality of remakes and sequels and threequels, right? Everything that started to be a franchise, and people started to like really shit on it.
Yeah.
In 2010. And being very down on this movie when it first came out.
You remember when we talked in Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Pirates of the Caribbean 3, and we did that long game about all the sequels, remakes, prequels, threequels that all came out that year. Like, that year was insane. And I kind of remember that happening then, where every time me and my friends would want to go to a movie, they're like, I don't know, Shrek 3. I'm like, is there a movie that doesn't have a 3 in the title? They're like, well, National Treasure 2. I was like, off!
I mean, there was this mentality that like Hollywood is losing all its creativity because there are no original movies anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that.
Still there.
It's still there, but I feel like I've accepted it. I'm just like, yep, they're gonna do this, and I may like it, and I probably won't.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all our new release episodes, we've tried very hard not to pick things that are in that realm, and it's been really hard, and we haven't liked the results very much. It's been a rough year for movies, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Except for Dune, which will be great.
We're all hoping.
Also, the card counter, guys.
There's also the card counter.
Card counter is looking cool.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Who's in that one?
Oscar Isaac.
Oh.
Yeah. See, that's it. That's all you need.
Celebrity crush.
I know, right?
So,
Jesse, what's your nostalgia?
My nostalgia is I used to watch the old True Grit like a lot. Growing up, it was like a John Wayne classic for me. Like, I think I really connected with it, kind of like what Liz was saying. It was like a fish out of water story, and it was a little kid. And since I was a little kid, I really connected with that. There's a little kid in a Western who happens to be the main character. The only thing I didn't like about that particular original version was I thought the little kid was really annoying. She's just kind of bratty and just has to have her way for like almost no reason. She just comes across as very unreasonable, even if she's able to argue her way into things. And then I saw this one in 2010. I can't remember if I was even excited to see it. I remember looking up stuff about it at the time. As soon as I saw it, I basically loved it. I loved the girl that's in it. Like, she's such a good actress in this one.
I was just going to say, and she's very reasonable. She strikes me as like overly reasonable in some ways.
Yeah.
Which is, very different from what you were just describing. I haven't seen the original.
Yeah. Yeah. She's quite whiny in the original.
Yeah.
Yeah. She still has the thing where she has to get her way in this one, but it comes across more as like a legit character trait you would see in a person that you get to know rather than just like an annoying trope in a character. Yeah. So she's great. And then, also, I love how funny this movie is. I was laughing in the theater almost the entire time. I still laugh almost the whole way through now. Yeah, and I've watched this regularly ever since. This is like one of my favorite like action adventure movies and westerns, and a movie that I enjoy thinking about. Like, I always love taking away things from movies and thinking about them for days afterwards. And every time I've seen this movie, I can find something new to think about. But also, I just enjoyed the experience thoroughly. And when I first came out of the theater, I didn't think about anything. I just loved everything that I saw because I think the movie really works on that level. So yeah, I love this movie.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, it's a great time. I'm looking forward to one day maybe showing this to my kids. Which reminds me, Mike.
No, I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
That is such a good line. That line has been stuck in my head for 11 years, ever since I saw this movie.
That's great.
But Mike, do you think you're ever going to show this movie to your kids?
I do. I think I will. I've been thinking about like when though. Like when would I show this to my kids in a certain way? I mean, I've got 2 daughters, and I love the idea of showing them this Western that's, about this girl who goes and kind of like wrangles these men into, doing the right thing, I guess. And, she's a strong, independent person. And I love that as sort of a character story for them to have and to like relate to whatever. But I have no idea when, like at all. I cannot figure out when to show this to them, because in some ways, like some parts of this, I'm like, I would show this to them today. Like when she's haggling with the horse trader and stuff like that. Like that's awesome. Mm-hmm. But then there's like also stuff like people with knives doing horrible things, and that's, I don't know when that's going to be okay with them. I mean, I guess middle teenage years, maybe, but I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I don't have kids, and I don't entertain hypotheticals.
Well, you might.
It's really hard for me to answer that kind of question because I don't have kids. I tend to think that I probably wouldn't care if my kids like cuss and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I just think that like cussing is just like meaningless to me, I guess.
Words are just words.
I don't know. If I have kids, like I might all of a sudden be like, you can't say like never.
It is really, I just have to say, it's really shocking coming out of a 3-year-old.
Yeah. I would imagine. I would imagine I would really turn all the way around on that one and be like, never. Yeah. So I had an experience where I was like with a friend, and she had a little kid, and we watched Hunt for the Wilder People, which I love. I love that movie, and I was like, and she was like, "Are there any scary parts in this movie or any appropriate parts?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." And like, there's like this scene where this woman like kills a boar, and it's like pretty aggressive. And the poor child was so scared. And so it's just really hard for me to understand the perspective of little children because I'm not surrounded by them. But yeah, I think the one thing that would hold me back is like definitely the fingers getting cut off and like the stabbing. Blood. Yeah. But I would show it to them as soon as I could discern that they would be okay with that kind of stuff, and maybe skip that scene if necessary. But I think it's
you don't want to skip that scene though, right? Like it's such a great scene.
Yeah. It's a great family movie overall, though. Like maybe once they're all like 13 and up. That's I'm gonna pull that number out there.
That's a good number. I was thinking 12 or 13 for myself, like a pretty hard go of it, because I just told you guys before the podcast, but coming on here, like I just showed my 4-year-old the original Star Wars, and she did very well with it. It's a pretty entertaining, like wild ride of a movie, and she was a little scared at parts, but I'm of the opinion that it's okay for kids to be scared sometimes.
Yeah,
like not traumatized, but a little scared is good and fun, and it makes the movies an exciting time and makes it not stale. Because I don't think that art should be stale, and I think that they can get a lot more out of it if it's a little bit more thrilling than maybe they're used to.
Yeah.
And so this one being a little bit more violent, yeah, it is. But also with the Western setting, like growing up, this kind of stuff, we would just see this stuff all the time, because I don't want to say like, oh, life was so much rougher out there, but like we killed animals all the time. Like seeing blood was not shocking in any way. And I know it's going to be different for my daughter. She's not there, but I don't want to coddle her too much. I'm not saying that you're coddling yours.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying that for myself, yeah, I'm going to say 12, 13. And I think that we're going to have a really good time. And I think she's going to love Maddie and really, really embrace it.
What I think would probably really resonate with kids is like the experience of children often is that they are just not taken seriously by adults. And like Maddie does encounter that, but like she just like doesn't give a crap. And she, you in the end, you do need to take her seriously. Like you have no other choice. Like that scene with Tom Chaney where he's like telling her to cock the gun and then she just like shoots him. She's like, he's like, what?
I did not think you would shoot me.
I did not think you would.
Yeah, I do love her. Yeah, I love that character, and I think I also want to show this to my kids because I connected with the little kid character growing up, so I want to give that to them. But I think I'm going to show the original to them way younger. In fact, I turned it on the other night just to try it out with them, and then there was immediately like a scene of 3 people hanging, which
Yes.
The hanging. Yeah. That's pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, it
kids.
happens in the old one, and you don't. I guess you actually do see it the whole way, but they're like flailing and struggling the whole time. And this one, it comes across as like far more brutal. Like, thunk, they're dead. Oh, shit.
Yeah. And then the dead body too, the rotting corpse hanging from the tree that they cut down.
Yeah.
That would have been really scary to me as a kid.
I do not know this man.
Yeah. There's a lot of like really intense scenes. Even like in this movie, the gunshots are very like violent sounding. Like it'll be a totally silent scene and then it like reverberates through the house. There's something about those sorts of gunshots as opposed to like, old westerns was like, pow, pow,
Yeah.
It's it doesn't sound fun. These gunshots sound scary. Like they're going to kill you. And I both appreciate that because that's what guns are. They do that. They sound like that and they will kill you. But I'm not sure if I want a really young person to watch it. So because of all the violent stuff and because of like the intensity of it all, I'll probably wait till they're like, I don't know, 14, 15.
Cool. We're all in a matter of years there. The formative years, though.
Yeah.
We all have like really young ones, and we always talk about like we always choose like specific teenage days or years, but like we're gonna be way off, and I know that.
Yeah, but it's not a hypothetical. We don't entertain those. It's hard and fast until we get there, and then we reserve the right to change our minds.
Absolutely,
Exactly.
that's what it means to be a parent.
Yes. No. Okay, fine.
Yeah, like what you said resonated with me, Jesse. That's definitely kind of how I feel like my kids are. Like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of this movie that I'd love to show them very soon, but then, you've got the scary guns and the real death and the fingers getting chopped off, and that makes it a little bit harder. And I don't know, maybe you can skip it and show it to them, but maybe the old one is worth revisiting with them. Skip the hanging, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you think?
The old one's much more like a real kid along for the ride kind of thing.
Okay.
And it's like she doesn't kill Chaney in the end. John Wayne does, which is like a really big moment in this movie, and it feels like very impactful and awesome. And then in the old one, he rides up, Tom Chaney's standing over the snake pit, he shoots Tom Chaney falls in the snake pit. And you're like, oh, really?
Yeah, this
we
is
went all this way?
After she shoots him twice. Like, she has shot him twice in the old movie, and he doesn't die. It's like, come on. What are bullets doing in this movie?
Only when they're shot by John Wayne are they deadly.
I wonder what happens in the book. I'd be curious to know.
Oh, yeah.
If that was,
If you've read the book, let us know. None of us have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked up some differences, and apparently this movie is more closer to the book in that regard, and Maddie does kill him.
Oh, okay, good.
That's cool.
Interesting. Still,
I
let us know.
have some thoughts about that scene.
Ooh, okay.
Little tiny into the everlasting.
Okay.
You could talk about your favorite scene right now if you wanted to. I don't know if your favorite scene happens to be the death scene.
No, I mean it's hard for me to settle. I do like that scene. I just like all the zingers. There's so many good zingers in this movie, and I especially like them when they're delivered by Maddie. I like all of her powerful scenes where people are underestimating her, like the one I was just talking about with Tom Chaney, as well as her bartering with that guy, where she like sells the ponies and then she buys one of them back for less than she sold it for. It's just like,
wait a minute, are we trading again?
Yeah, he's just so scared. He's like, no. And that little kid who's like, oh no, I'm not going to mention you. He doesn't want me to say your name
again. Yeah.
And I like when she insults LaBeef the first time she meets him, when he's like, I wasn't sure whether to steal a kiss, but now I have half a mind to give you 10 lickings or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, one would be just as unpleasant as the other. I just love it because like everyone's just like treating her like a little girl, and she's just like, I can hold my own, and I just love that.
Yeah. Yeah, she does own them all to the point where they're just so pissed at her that like the only thing Lviv can do is just haul her off her horse and hit her because there's nothing else he can do. He's like, you're pissing me off so much.
Yeah, he has nothing to say to her because that's why I think I haven't seen the first one, but like I just think Haley Steinfeld does just such a great job, and
yeah,
it's hard to do a young girl character who is as mouthy as she is and still be likable. And I think she just hits out of the park.
Yeah, because usually, like, given if she wasn't so confident, right?
Yeah.
If she didn't deliver these lines with such confidence and instead sounded snide or something, you'd be like, well, this is just like a bratty kid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like this person. I don't want to be around them. And I'm on the side of Rooster and the beef. But because she says everything with the true force, you're totally behind her. Like when she says that when she tries to conclude the trading, right, and she stands up, she's like, well, you'll be hearing from my lawyer, Jane Noble Daggett. He will serve you with a writ of reprobate. The guy goes, a what? She goes, a writ of reprobate. It's great, but you're on her side for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because it's true. She also kind of points out like, do you really want to go to law with this? You're against a widow and her children. It's just like, he's like,
I will hand over the money when I have in my hand something absolving me from the beginning of creation until this present date.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, she is
that
great.
Is so good. How about you, Vito? What are your favorite scenes?
I'm cheating a little bit, and I'm doing two, but I'm doing two because I think it's the framing device of the movie, so I think it counts. Okay? Because Roger Deakins came up with the framing device of the slow dissolve in on Maddie's father dead on the ground, and then Tom Chaney riding off as we have, the opening proverb, the wicked flee when none pursueth. And the opening monologue from 40-year-old Maddie, people do not give it credence that a young girl could leave home and go off in the wintertime to avenge her father's blood, but it did happen. That's so cool because that's the first two sentences of the movie. You're seeing an open saloon, the snow coming down, the beautiful golden light, and this dead body. And then we hear those two sentences and you're like, oh, okay, I'm in. Like, I got it. And then as her monologue continues going, it's even more and more convincing to the point at the end, like when Papa tried to intervene, Chaney shot him, Chaney fled. He could have walked his horse, for not a soul in that town could be bothered to give chase. No doubt Chaney fancied himself scot-free, but he was wrong. You must pay for everything in this world, one way and another. There is nothing free except the grace of God. And it's such a dynamite way to open up anything. Because you know everything now. You know the whole beginning.
Hearing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is that the old one, you don't have this. Yeah. You see the scene where you actually see a pretty long prologue of them, like her with her dad and her dad with the family, and then she's giving him advice on business, and then he goes to town with Chaney, and Chaney gets drunk, and Chaney shoots him, and Chaney runs. And it's like 10 minutes, right, Jesse?
Yeah, it lasts for a while.
And in this one, does away with all of it, and then when you first see Maddie, the movie's already going. Like, you've skipped almost the first act. It's brilliant. But that framing device of the beautiful gold colors, it comes back after she's been snake bit. Tom Chaney's dead. The Ned Pepper gang is killed off. And now Rooster is rushing to get her to a doctor somewhere. And she runs the horse out, and he runs it until it dies. He has to shoot it in the head, and then he picks her up and he carries her. And it's so gorgeous, the way how dark the sky is. It's like a dream. And and what Roger Deakins said is that he wanted it to be like a storybook. And so when they finally show up at Trading Post, and it's echoed again, like the golden light spilling out into the darkness and the snow. It was chilling to me. Just chilling.
The imagery felt like a children's book, like something that I've read to my kids. It was beautiful. Yeah, like the whole way that they're riding, and just like the silence and sort of the peace of the framing of the scenes, but then the action that's going on, and then moving to like as he's carrying her running, and you're looking up, like it's her image of him against the stars. Like I don't know, it was wild. And then when they finally get there, that's cool to hear that. It's
the three images, right? It's that amazing sunset, and then you see the rider crossing, right? Yeah. Exactly the middle of the frame. And then it cuts to them as like a cutout in the dark, so you can't see the stars through their shadow. and she's having the hallucination that it's Cheney getting away. Oh, it's everything about it is I've never seen that kind of thing before. I don't think I still have. Yeah, my favorite scene for sure.
Cool.
That's really beautifully shot. I do love both of those. Both of those scenes are amazing. How about you, Mike?
So I'm going to go the opposite direction. My favorite scene in the movie is like kind of right in the middle. There's a fun little interchange. We get a little sense of what it would be like living in the Old West in these very isolated places where we learn about a guy named the original Greaser Bob from someone whose name, I don't know if he has a name in this movie.
I'll keep looking.
The dentist.
The dentist.
Named Crentist.
It's just amazing. So Maddie and Rooster Cogburn are riding out in Indian territory, and they come across a dead body hanging from a tree. But the whole time that they're riding, Rooster is just telling these really graphic and like adult stories about his life, and he's just kind of like mumbling them, and like you can't really hear what he's saying.
Yeah. And
at this point, my wife and I were like, we need to turn on the subtitles. And then it gets even more difficult to understand what he's saying.
I give $3 for a pickled buffalo tongue right now.
I remember that.
It's so much fun. Like, they just let Jeff Bridges just talk. And
That was a lot of that was unscripted.
I mean, I don't know.
Like as Bear Man.
Bear Man. So they cut down this guy who's hanging from the tree because Rooster Cogburn says, well, I might know him.
Yeah.
So they cut him down. Maddie climbs up the tree, cuts him down, and a Native American comes along and picks up the body because it might be worth something, and kind of talks with Rooster for a little bit and then rides off. And I guess he makes a deal with Rooster that if he meets someone riding along behind them, he'll shoot his gun in the air, which we hear later on as Rooster and Maddie continue riding. Snow starts falling a little more, and we find out that all this happens. So Maddie says, so what do we do? Rooster says, it's LaBeef. We'll wait. And they wait, and it gets more and more snowy. And finally, someone comes along, and you're like, LaBeef, this is going to be great. They're going to be able to make fun of him. And who shows up? But Bear Man.
I'm going as this guy for Halloween.
That's a
great Halloween costume. And Bear Man is riding along, and he has the same dead body on the back of his horse that the Native American had on the back of his horse, the one that was cut down from way up high in the tree. And they just have a great interchange. It's fantastic. You find out he's a dentist. He dabbles in medicine. He really hopes that one of them needs some help.
Are any of you seeking medical attention?
He has already taken the teeth out of the dead man's body and offers to trade the body to them. And Rooster says, no, thank you. Is there anywhere that we can stay for the night? And the Bear Man says, you might want to head over to the original Greaser Bob's. The original Greaser Bob's.
He really emphasized.
Very important that it's the original, not the
other
new one.
Greaser Bob, which is so. I don't understand that because it's like it makes you think of like chain restaurants now.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is this is the old Wild West.
So I did watch the original, and they don't bring up the original Greaser Bob, but instead they bring up Mexican Bob.
Yes.
And they explicitly say he's the second one. And then Maddie's like, oh, there was another? And John Wayne's like, yeah, there was another. He doesn't hold the candle to the original.
That's amazing.
That's really funny.
I didn't know that, so that's why it was very
close the loop.
Very emphasized. Yeah. I see.
So I know the Coen brothers inserted this scene. This wasn't part of the book. This wasn't part of the old movie. They made up this scene for this movie. So it seems to me that like they're paying homage to the old one.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Well, and it causes the first like crisis of the film, which is them going to the original Greaser Bob's. But it's so much fun because it gives you that sense of like both the isolation and the unexpected encounters of the Old West.
Yeah.
It's sort of things that you feel playing like Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
The best
like,
part of that game is when like someone like rides past you and they're like only in their underwear. And you're like, wait,
what?
what's up with that guy? Like,
Been riding around here for hours and I haven't seen anybody.
I just love how he says too, if you ride the river. Like, I don't understand his intonation. Like, why does he say the things he's saying in the way? Like the first time I watched it, I did not have the subtitles on, and I had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah.
He just kept saying "Greaser Bob," and I was like, "What is this?"
And I love how when Rooster first asks, like, "Is there anywhere for shelter?" He says, "Well, I have my bear coat."
Oh, yeah.
And he pauses, like
I forgot.
like this somehow helps them.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been living with himself for so long that he seems to be going a little bit crazy.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm surprised that he's not talking to his horse a little bit.
He
Yeah,
probably does.
right. We should have introduced him then.
Part of me really would not want that guy as a doctor at all, but at the same time, I kind of would.
He wouldn't
You know?
be shocked by anything going on with you.
Yeah.
You could go to him with anything, and he'd be like, "Oh, yes,
Yeah.
drink this."
Yeah. I'd be like, okay.
Here's a
I'm
bottle
violently
of-
throwing up. Why is this? It helps.
Expectorant.
Expectorant.
Original Greaser Bob, that's my favorite. I think it's hilarious. It gives us that sense of the Old West. It's very funny and also causes the rest of the movie to occur as it does. It brings them together with Cheney. It works perfectly. I love it. Jesse, do you have a single favorite scene? Is there one where you're like, this is the one that I just love the most, or what?
To be honest, I have so many favorite scenes. Every scene in this movie is basically my favorite scene. I genuinely love this movie from beginning to end. I don't think there's a boring scene in here that I don't like. But there are actually two that have always struck me. The one is the courtroom scene. It's like Rooster Cogburn's introduction. He's already been introduced a little bit in the outhouse scene when Maddie Ross goes through into the outhouse, which is a fantastic opening for that character. There is no pluck on my business.
The hell with you! And then it's like quiet, and it's something that I say sometimes. I've said it in restaurants before when people knock. I just say, "Jake's is occupied. Will be for some time." No one wants to use that bathroom.
No one's ready. I also like how Maddie is like, well, I asked for you at like such and such, and they referred me here.
It's like an office.
Women aren't allowed in the saloon. He's like so mad about it. That is a great intro. But then you see him being like questioned by the defense attorney, and they're like, he's just sitting around telling his story the whole time, and it's funny because the defense attorney is like just making stuff up for him, and he like just repeats it. But then, most particularly, he's like cross-examined by actor Joe Stevens. I've never seen this guy in anything else. I've just
He's got
seen
a
him
fantastic
in
face.
his face is fantastic. His mustache is so great. The way he
Oh, it's so good.
contorts it, Mr. Cogburn, and then it's like his mustache is already like moved.
How
20
many
different
men
times.
have you shot?
Shot or killed? Killed just so we can have a manageable figure. And then he says like 12
that was the
15.
trailer
Yeah.
line. I remember that. That was the trailer line. Like it opened, and then that was just that voice in over black was like, "Mr. Cogburn, how many men have you shot?" And it just made for a really good trailer. I think about that line a lot. That's a really good scene. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. And then the defense attorney, he's able to like corner him, right? Like you really realize at the end of that scene that he is the one that like just shot a man behind the back while he was tending his fire. And you have no doubts about that. And that's particularly striking considering the original where it's like the same dialogue, almost. It's like 90% there. But the takeaway at the end of the scene is far different. You're like, oh, John Wayne is basically in the right. It's the law that seems to be getting in the way somehow. At least that was my takeaway growing up.
Because like he in this one, right? He stumbles over like how the man ended up in the fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the attorney's like really hitting him hard. Like, so did you pick the body up, take him over, and fling his arm in the fire?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, hogs must have moved him." And in the old one, he says the hogs moved him. Like he just says it really clearly, and we're like, "Oh, okay. Well, the hogs moved him." Yeah.
That's so stupid. Of course the hogs did not. That's such a silly answer. And then he says it in this one as like a, the hogs moved him. I do not remember.
And also he changes, like when he first asked the number, he's like, oh, well, I don't know, like maybe like 15 or something. And then the guy was like, well, I definitely have a real number in front of me. And he's like, 23. He's like, I'll beat you to the punch. And he's like, he knows. Yeah, it's pretty clear he's being pretty dishonest. But we already know that about him before that scene, though, because when he's introduced, Maddie's asking, I forget who, she's asking someone like, oh, what are the guys around?
She's asking the sheriff.
Yeah, and so he's like, well, there's this guy, and like guy number 1, and he's pretty good. He always gets his mark. There's this rooster guy, like he's pretty intense, and like he kills everybody. And then the third one is probably the best because he's extremely just. And she's like, let's look at the rooster. Like I want to hear more about him. And yeah, so we already kind of know that he's a little shady.
Are you telling me there's a loose cannon for sale here, sir?
Yeah,
I'm hearing there's a loose
She's
cannon for
looking
sale.
for a loose cannon. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do love when he says the number though, because at first he says 12 to 15. And then the lawyer's like, I have the paper right here. And he's like, well, I guess with them 2 warden boys, it's 23. It's like, he should have said 14 or 17 based off of what he just said. But like, no, he remembered. He was just like hiding it all.
Yeah.
It's such a funny line.
Yeah.
So I love the courtroom scene. I also love the Lucky Ned Pepper scene when like he has his foot on Maddie's face and he's just screaming down on Cogburn. That's also really well done in the original one too. That's Robert Duvall playing Lucky Ned Pepper then, and this guy has like basically the same intonation, but like the way it's shot is much more striking in my opinion.
And he's got the really chapped lips, you know, and he just looks he looks kind of strung out, honestly. Like he really looks like he's been on the run. And Robert Duvall is handsome as all hell. So he just looks really good.
Yeah.
But this Ned Pepper, like he truly looks like he's reaching the end of his luck, you know, and he feels really backed into this corner. He's scared.
And that line when he's like, I need a good judge.
Yeah.
And you're realizing like he knows he's out of luck too. And it's almost like he's like preparing to die to go to the judge. It's kind of what
I call that like strong words for a one-eyed fat man.
Man, I could talk about so many other scenes, but I think those are the 2 I'm gonna really shout out though.
Beautiful. Cool.
All right, so we've got a lot of questions about this movie. Vito, I believe you wanted to talk about the morality of this one?
Yeah, well, because we mentioned in the Fargo that, well, I mentioned in the Fargo episode that I think that almost every Coen Brothers movie is a morality play at their heart. They're very concerned with stuff that is good, stuff that is evil, and they're also very, very concerned with death and mortality, as I mean all great art is, but specifically very concerned with it. And I kind of wanted to ask, I think the morals here are pretty unshakable, and the good guys win out against the bad guys in the end. But I just kind of wanted to explore because there's the definite ending where Maddie gets saved and Rooster shoots the gun, right? But then there's the whole postscript sequence where things didn't really, like, I guess they worked out for Maddie, but it's hard to tell what works out means. Mm-hmm. Like she continued living her life. She never fooled around with getting married. So she's a spinster and her family is dead. Mm-hmm. And she goes to visit Rooster. And it turns out that she just missed Rooster's death. Mm-hmm. And she has his body moved. It doesn't leave you feeling victorious.
Yeah.
I don't know if it leaves you feeling defeated, but it didn't make me feel like cheering. In fact, I openly cried this last time when I watched it, just watching her walk away from the graves across the prairie as they play, you know, the
leaning on the everlasting arms.
Right. The beautiful Iris DeMent version too.
Yeah. She's got such a striking voice.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to ask about that because the original is pretty cut and dried. You know, the good guy won, the bad guy died, and that's true here too. But it's different, and I kind of wanted to just ask, how do you guys think it's different? I don't actually have an answer. This is like an open question.
I can't compare it to the other one because I haven't seen it. But one of what left a bad taste in my mouth, not about like I'm not, you know, condemning the movie itself, but about the character Maddie. You know, she's just like so uptight about justice and like everything needs to be even. And then you have this scene where this man saves her life. He goes to this great length, and it's so intense. She's been on this long journey with him, and then she says, I tried giving him the last $50 I owed him, and I never got a response. And so that, to me, I think what left that in particular left that feeling of dissatisfaction with the end. Again, not to the movie's detriment at all, but like there's something missing there. Like she has a relationship with this guy and she owes him more than $50, but somehow she doesn't see that. And I think that's kind of the old Maddie is just like her voice is very deadpan and matter of fact, as it was when she was a child too. But there's almost like an added sadness in the grown woman's voice,
especially when she says like old trail mates. You know, and she sounds younger for just like those two words. But
there's almost like a lack of love in her character. And even when she hears that her father dies, or when she goes to see his body, and there's the guy who's like, if you want to cry, that would be all right.
Would you like to kiss him? That would be all right.
And she goes, no, thank you. The spirit has flown.
Yeah, she keeps talking, but then she cries when she sees his gun.
Right.
That's the only time she cries. And yeah, I think that there's as much as I love her character, there's also just something so sad that there's something missing there. I also can't say what it is, but she's not ever willing to go beyond what she owes people, what, like, according to the numbers and agreements that she owes people, that she's not able to have real relationships, maybe. I don't know if that's really answering the morality question, but I guess I'm trying to answer that your question of why does it feel so sad in the end?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you're blaming it all on her, because I always
I'm not trying to, but yeah.
Well, like I never even thought of her as like the person to blame there. I thought it was all like Rooster. Rooster like got up before she was even well, and when she tried to wire him the money, he refused to respond. He I don't know. He doesn't want another human relationship except what's immediately around him. So he just like up and left and just figured he'd never see her again. So yeah, I always blame that more on him. Maybe that's on her, but I always kind of actually I just realized there's something from the script. Like sometimes I like to read parts of the script online or whatever, and I download it. And part of the script that never made it into the movie, I don't think, was after she says at the very end that she never got married because she didn't want to fool around with it. She said she was taking care of her mother for like the past 20 years.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so she's running the entire household. Her mom is kind of stupid and is not with it mentally. So she's like around taking care of like the homestead. And like, how would she, I don't even know how she would like go out and like bond with Rooster and what that would mean to go above and beyond for him. Like what can you do for somebody after they've saved your life like that?
I don't know. I kind of wonder, just thinking about this again and not really thinking about it more like in context with other Coen work and the way that they end their movies, right? Like the ending of No Country and the ending of A Serious Man, or the ending, like we talked about in the Fargo episode, we talked about how sometimes they end with a shrug, and sometimes they end with something more, and sometimes they end very definitely, and sometimes they end with a joke, like the ending of Oh Brother Where Art Thou, right? Everyone gets washed away in a big flood. But this one, the way ending like this, I think it's just that beautiful line, and I wonder if maybe what they're just more talking about is just what life is like.
Life just gets away from us or something. Time just gets away from us.
Time just gets away from us.
Yeah.
And then she just starts walking away. And I kind of wonder, is it more than that? I don't know.
Like I'd say probably they're both to blame if blame is involved. I don't know if blame should be involved in it, but like her way of reaching out and saying thank you was doing everything within her power to like get the money back. And for him, that's almost probably a little insulting.
Yeah.
Because what happened to him and what she represented to him was something very
He calls
different.
her sister.
Yeah. And
sis.
Well,
I loved that. I loved when he called her sis.
But then also just like the difficulty of trying to have any sort of relationship. Their lives are so different. He seems to like his life as it is, as a murderer.
An old man in a rope bed behind a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. So just time gets away from you. Yeah. So it felt kind of classic Coen-y. It's not an easy, like it's almost this easy bundle, and then they just like, life sucks.
It's
doesn't make sense. That's an interesting like addendum to the idea of their movies as morality plays, because they are, or they encounter them, and they generally have like right and wrong and good and bad getting what they want, but good doesn't end up ever being as good. Like their rewards aren't quite as good as you hope they're going to be, and the bad isn't maybe quite as bad as you hope it's going to be.
Well, the bad is actually always pure evil.
I mean, like what happens to them though.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Well, here though, there isn't really pure evil, is there?
No. I guess, that's also why this seems weird, because this is the lightest. Like this and Oh Brother, right, are the lightest of the Coens.
What about Burn After Reading? What is that?
No.
Lightness.
Light.
The most nihilist.
And Hail Caesar is pretty light.
That's true. It is. But Hail Caesar, right, is really complicated, because he's like the fun thing about that one is that he's a very faithful religious man having to work in a super fallen system and like hating the stuff that he does, and not really being able to square that with himself.
Yeah.
But this one is like you have like the Texas Ranger, right, who's very much about that credo. Like this line here: "The Texas Ranger presses on alone." And his final line in the movie: "Ever stalwart."
His bell has been so very funny.
Oh man!
But I just think that this one. So I guess what I mean. Let me amend. Morality seems easiest in this film than it is in any of their other films, because Oh Brother is easy to watch, but it's also very confusing. Generally speaking, and Hail Caesar also seems like a tangled web.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, a lot of people apparently really hated that one because it is kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan. I don't hate it, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't think it's as the story is pretty disorienting, and I think it's kind of a series of great one-liners and great scenes, and as a whole unit, it maybe falls short a bit, but
would that it were.
Yeah, would that it were so simple.
But well, all right. Talking about the morality, though, like we had also talked about Unforgiven, as right, which is like the story of William Money, who is like, Clint Eastwood coming back after all these years and committing murders and stuff like that, and then like showing the horror of the violence that he commits at the end of the film. And I saw True Grit doing something similar with the very end. It's like not at all to the same extent, because the violence in this movie is still really fun. It's really fun to see Jeff Bridges ride out against 4 people all at once.
Mm-hmm. You think this is going to be a dogfall rooster?
That is such a great... I love it. Fill your hands, you son of a bitch. He grabs the reins with his mouth just like John Wayne and just rides out, and it's this epic scene. But then at the end, he's just like out riding with Cole Younger and Frank James, who were also part of Captain Quantrill. They were part of Captain Quantrill's crew. So yeah, he just went and joined his old war buddies, and has been riding with them for years. Has never left his lifestyle. Has kept that. It's like he has these moments of greatness, and it seems like at the end of the movie, almost he's been redeemed, and then he just goes right back to it. It's just like, it's got this sense of like this violence and these great acts that he's even capable of, like drive him to maybe to drink and to live this sort of this lifestyle that he's in. That's what I took from it anyway, which is both something that I see in a lot of modern Westerns, and also I guess what I love about this movie as opposed to other ones is that like I love how the action here is genuinely epic and genuinely heroic. It's so much fun to see it. It's not like dreary like Unforgiven was, which is not to Unforgiven's discredit. That's just the way it was. It felt sad. This does not feel sad. It feels triumphant. And then
it's like the closest the Coens will ever get to like making a blockbuster. Like it's the most straight up.
And it felt like that was intentional. Like, this is supposed to be a straight up action adventure, like blockbuster type thing. Oh, and then, by the way, at the end, things aren't so great.
You're going to walk out kind of going like, what?
Kind of bummed. You're going to be kind of bummed.
Yeah, there's no happily ever after here. At the end of his life, he had to, it seems like he's still paying for everything that he's ever done.
He rode in Buffalo Bill's show.
Nothing was still free for him, as Maddie says earlier. He's paying for it all.
and herself too. She gets her revenge, but loses her arm.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't seem like she's still very matter of fact about it. She's like,
Yeah.
It's done. And I think that happens in, so many of the Greek tragedies where revenge is, what they're seeking is in the end is still pretty unsatisfying.
It costs you something.
It costs you something. And you're also just like, you always think going into it, or the character seems to always think like she's so motivated. And then in the end, it's just like, it's gone now. What's next? And apparently nothing for Maddie is next.
Yeah. She never goes on an adventure like that in her life again.
Yeah.
I keep circling around this thought in my head. I don't really know quite what to do with it. But it seemed to me like very fairy tale-y, like Maddie's sort of influence on both the beef and Rooster. Like you said, she turns into like Rooster Cogburn's sister, daughter in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you see him running across the plains with her, that's like a father and a daughter. And like she's this moment in their lives that doesn't exist outside of it with her in it. Her life, like, it's this moment of greatness for her that doesn't exist without them in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I don't know, that's a fascinating sort of idea or something. Like these people coming together on the trailhead to, achieve Western movie revenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a fairy tale. It's the American fairy tale is the Western.
Absolutely.
But then, without one another together, they fall back into the lives that they were living before. The beef being probably a dandy jerk.
A dandy. That's such a great,
he's a rodeo
got the tassels.
Clown.
Yeah.
I love that. On that same note, I love that scene where she looks at him kind of for the first time when she's like, I misjudged you.
Yeah.
When I forget exactly. I think.
Is that right when he shoots Ned Pepper?
I think when he comes back for her.
Right.
Oh, right. Yeah. And then Rooster is like, just like dead drunk. Right.
Yeah. He's super drunk. He's like, I'm leaving.
Oh yeah.
Bow out.
Yeah. I bow out. and yeah, so she kind of looks at him and I part of me thinks that maybe she's manipulating him and she's like, well, he's my only shot. But I think it seems like a sincere scene.
I felt sincere. It even felt a little like the closest she would get to like a girlish crush in that moment.
Yeah.
Because she does mention him later, and she does mention the possibility of her like calling him up and seeing what he's like now, even though he's probably in his 70s or whatever, or near to.
Or near 80.
Near 80, yeah. As if he was like almost 50 years old when they rode out together.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he did want to kiss her, so
he did.
That was a little uncomfortable.
It was a different time.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was
Still uncomfortable. This is today. I am
was
uncomfortable with the fact
movie
that
was
would have
in a
been
different
okay.
time.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
He's
It's almost like
14-year-old girl in bed. She's clearly sweating and has some fevers. Like, I want to kiss her.
I think she's like super ugly, but I'll kiss her.
And that's what he says. Is he's like, even though you are,
sick, young, and sick and ugly to boot.
Well, it's weird too because she is like she's a force of nature and she's a very strong person, but then she has these like interesting moments of childishness almost.
Okay. The most notable for me is when they're sitting around the campfire. They're both telling their like nasty stories, and she's like, "You guys want to hear the story of the Midnight Howler?" Like, someone's got to be the Howler. That's like that's the moment, the one moment that I'm like, "Oh yeah, she's a kid."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's great though because it works and it totally diffuses the situation because they're about to get into it. They're about to kill each other.
Yeah.
And she diffuses the situation. There's a scene where she's like talking to her horse, talking to Blackie. And just like naming her horse and like doing all of this like seems almost childish when she's put next to Rooster and the beef, who are very practical and pragmatic in their different ways. And she's like petting it like, oh, tomorrow we're going to go catch our man. We're going to shoot him. And Rooster Cogburn, he's a good, virtuous person. She doesn't quite say that, but that's the vibe that you're getting. And then the next day, Rooster's drunk, just like wasted.
Yeah.
And just like, it seems very much about that conflict of both like the childhood meeting adulthood and also the impact that a child can have on adults. I mean,
Yeah.
as far as morality, the morality play, or like the theme, maybe the theme of this, it seems like that's a big part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to connect that to sort of the ideas of that ending that we have. I guess maybe that's what it is. I'm connecting it to, like, we've got this frame of like kind of the sadness and realities of life, where at the end she's old, she's a spinster, she doesn't have an arm, she seems very severe.
Mm.
Whereas like she's so full of life in the movie, and what we expect here, she's so full of life. She brings these people up, and then at the end, like, none of them are in a place where you feel like satisfied.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a very interesting juxtaposition. And I don't know. That's it. That's it.
Keep your seat trash.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just the look she gives him too.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I agree. I
Also,
agree
I
with
love-
everything that she said.
I love historically that is Frank James. That is Jesse James's brother that she just said that to.
Yeah.
Keep your seat trash.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Yeah, she goes up to historical figures and just schools them.
Yeah.
She still has that sort of energy.
No, I liked everything you said. I guess I was looking for a question, but instead I think you explained it really well though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think you did.
Well, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I was trying to find the question, but I think that it was just
It was an answer.
Yeah, it was the answer.
You found an answer.
Yeah, there we go.
Good.
We have been talking about the ending a lot and the theme, so I'm going to mash that into one question. What do you think about leaning on the everlasting arms hymn being the theme of this movie? Because literally it is interwoven into the musical score throughout the movie. I think that's very strange. Like, why is this the song that is throughout the movie? Leaning
'Cause it's-
on the everlasting... All right.
You got to go higher, much higher.
Safe and secure. She's got such a
The way she says to
Yeah.
alarm, it's really strange.
Alarm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Like it's just really unique,
It's
and it does make you laugh sometimes.
Yeah. She's got
Yep.
a really, really distinctive voice. Yeah, I think this movie really resonated with me in a different way watching it this time because of that question of, this girl is like going out and seeking, like at one point she's talking to someone, she's like, well, no one else is going to do it. My mom, like, she's like sick with grief, and my kid brother, he's just a baby, and I'm the one who takes care of the family. And she's owning it. She's doing a great job of it, and she's so good at bartering. She's schooling all these people. But then the theme throughout is this, like, leaning on the everlasting arm. What joyfulness. Oh, what,
Yeah.
And
That's
so
a
it's
weird
just-
thing.
it's super
Yeah.
weird.
Well, and even when it does seem like fate or God or whatever has brought in, like, Labif kind of seems like the answer, where she could lean on sort of like circumstance, be like,
Yeah.
hey, here's a guy who's going to go kill this guy.
Right.
I can step out.
Exactly.
I can bow out. Like,
Yeah, and she chooses to go along with the guy she hired too. Like, she could even just leave the two guys to go and be
Yeah.
like, all right, cool. But
They
she's
were more
still-
than comfortable with that.
Yeah.
they might have preferred it.
But, with what you just said, Mike, too, they obviously, both times that they both decided to turn back, they get into an argument. And I watched it last night and I went back because I was like, well, why are they turning back? And I had to rewatch those scenes, and it's like no real reason. They're just like dudes fighting.
Yeah.
And so it's good that she's there too. Like she's a really important figure in the movie. So like, why the heck is this the theme?
I think number one, as we were talking about before the pod, it's a very obvious and really funny joke because of the one-armedness of later Maddie.
Yeah.
And that seems like a I can almost hear the dry chuckle of the Coens.
Yeah.
Just like
Why do you think it is?
yeah. And then I think there's also something to be said too about she has to lean on Rooster and his arms to carry her. And if she hadn't done that, because I think there's a very clear visual tie-in between Rooster carrying her across the seemingly endless plains and then her walking out across the same plains, right? Remembering Rooster, saying goodbye. And so I think that's there. So I think it's two. And then the third one is that there are a couple of very insanely lucky things that happen in this movie, right? The first one I'm thinking of is when LaBeef nails Ned Pepper from so far away. You know, what a bully shot!
Yeah.
And he does not think he can do it,
Yeah.
but he gets him. And there's a couple moments of surprise and almost like coincidence that make it so the movie continues on. Like LaBeef turning back, right? It's weird because he's very clearly like says goodbye to Maddie and she's begging him to stay. And he says, no, I'm leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes. Like that seems pretty final, but he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, there's moments where it does feel like, as with some other Coen movies, where coincidence starts to feel more like the hand of God almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
The most stark example of this, I think, is when she falls into a pit and she's caught by the branch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's the everlasting arm, the branch that's like holding her from her death.
Oh,
Yeah.
like it's literally a hand that grabs her.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And
That's
also,
good.
Vito, I know, like you're pointing it out as kind of a joke that it's making fun of, her not having an arm anymore. But
Yeah.
also, like she is like a self-made woman, right? She is somebody who's done something for herself, like the whole way through. And when she got her hand bit, she could do nothing for herself. She could not rely on her own arms. The arms that just shot Cheney, like almost got her killed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And she has to lean on somebody else's. She is literally leaning on Rooster Cogburn's arms,
Right.
as he's carrying her. Yeah.
I think there's more in the arm too, because like going back to that last, he saves her life. Then she's like, well, I tried sending him his $50. I still owed him, and he wouldn't accept it. And I think that her missing arm is also like a sign of her unevenness, or she still owes.
Yeah.
And that's like she owes to God, I guess, like the everlasting arm.
Oh,
That's what she owes.
That's good.
Ooh.
That's some Flannery O'Connor shit
Yeah,
right there.
yeah, I know. The Coen brothers sometimes like really just. I would love if they did. Actually, I don't know if you guys saw the what was it, the series of Western shorts that they did.
Oh yeah,
Ballad of
Buster
Scruggs.
Scruggs.
Yeah.
That was very Flannery O'Connor.
Yeah.
I felt.
100%.
Oh yeah.
She may as well have written it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun.
But then they write lines like, for Emmett Quincy here to Maddie, who worked you over with the ugly stick?
Oh my God. I just love me a ugly female lead.
Which is like crazy to say about Haley Steinfeld too, because you're like, no, you're objectively a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, wow, who dragged this turd in here?
Yeah.
She's really cute.
Yeah, and any more thoughts about the everlasting arms? That was a surprisingly deep question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I have more, but I guess the question of justice, I think, is just such a big question. And, whenever you go out, it really reminded me actually of The Merchant of Venice, because she's looking for this. She's like, she wants her pound of flesh. And then when you hold her up too, though, like even in her negotiations with, what's his name? The guy with the horses.
I forget.
She's unjust in those dealings, actually.
Yeah.
She goes back, she buys the horse for less than she sold it to him for. And she also, like, when she, the scene I mentioned earlier, when the sheriff lists the 3 men who could go after Tom Chaney for her, she doesn't choose the just one. She chooses
the meanest of
them.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because she perceives that as what Tom Chaney deserves. But still, there is a lack of justice in her character. And I think one of the reasons that this song is the theme is that she's still given mercy. Like she still is dealt with mercifully. In the end, her life is saved by this man who wasn't contracted to save her life. That wasn't part of their agreement.
Right.
Yeah.
Chaney's dead. They should be done.
Yeah. He could have walked away and she still would have owed him that $50.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she's given a lot of mercy in the end, even if she doesn't see it. So I think that's why that's the theme.
That's a good point. I like, well, it's interesting because I feel like she would say she was a very just person.
Oh,
yeah,
of course.
exactly.
She lived entirely according to the law, but I think the reality is that it's about her justice, her version of it. Even that hilarious scene where she says, like, screw you, trash, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Feels good when you hear it, but it's also like, why? Like, why are you the one who says that this guy's trash?
You're
and
the
this other one
arbiter.
isn't? She's the arbiter of justice. She's the
Exactly,
definer and the enforcer of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, even in seeking out Tom Chaney, right? Like,
Yeah.
is that
She's an eye for an eye kind of girl.
Mhm.
She's the one that's
Yeah.
going to
Oh,
take the eye.
Yeah, she
And
really
then
is.
remember when she gets really upset at the store when they find her father's gold piece, and then she's like, "Oh, so he came this way." She's like happy about it at first, and then Rooster is just like, "Or somebody killed him and just took it off his body and bought something with it." And she's like, "Oh no, what are we gonna do? That'd be terrible." It's like, but that's what you're going for. But no, it's really just that she wants to kill him. It's
I
not
have
that
to kill Tom Chaney.
yeah, I have to kill Tom Chaney. He can't go to Texas. He can't just be like hit on the road by some random strangers. It has to be me.
She needs a certainty that he's dead, which is a certainty that even after she's the one that shoots him, she doesn't have, right? Like that also makes it feel unfulfilled too, because the last thing that she sees is Tom Chaney riding away. You know?
What?
Oh,
Yeah.
like in her
hallucination.
Hallucination.
Yeah, like her fixation is so deep that even after she murdered him, she still thinks he's getting away.
For a second there, I was like, he survived?
There was an after credit scene. I have to fast forward to the end.
Well, we don't see the dead body ever.
It's true.
Like,
Yeah, he,
we
like,
see him get
flies
shot
off
in
the
the
cliff.
chest and
Yep.
he falls off the cliff.
I'm pretty sure he's dead.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
he's dead.
Yeah, but
True Grit 2.
the rise of Tom
The rise
Chaney,
of Tom Chaney.
i.e. Thanos.
Yeah. She has like a mechanical arm, it's like a gun.
Tom Chaney, you son of a bitch.
I call this the everlasting arm.
Yes, please.
The ever-ending arm, more like it.
Yeah. Give it to me. Give it to me. I want that.
Now fill your hands, you sons of bitches.
Oh yeah, you got to
Yeah.
change it. You got to change
Yeah,
it.
it would have to be like RoboCop. Yeah. You want to talk about masculinity and norm?
Is this interesting to anyone? I just put it up there because we mentioned it in the other episode.
Is there a Norm?
Do you remember Norm from Fargo?
Is he the husband?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
normal norm.
Normal norm.
I guess I would need to know a little bit more about what you mean about that archetype before.
Because we said that he's the only normal person in Fargo. He's just like a basic good.
Mhm.
He just helps his wife. He paints his ducks.
He makes her breakfast.
Exactly.
Supports her.
Yeah. So
that's-
I guess
That's an
Emotionally.
interesting. Yeah, that goes along with the morality play question. Yeah, I like that.
okay. I mean,
Yeah.
so then the depiction of masculinity here. What is that, and how does it sort of connect with Fargo and then the character of Norm as we talked about, or just from your knowledge of Fargo and Norm? Is that a good way to ask that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we've probably been circling a little bit. Is there a norm in here? Like, is it the shopkeeper?
It's quite a colorful cast.
The Norm is Bearman.
Bearman. Yeah.
The most normal guy.
Yeah, he's just a normal guy.
Oh, I'll have a bear.
It's just
He's
yeah.
just a normal dentist.
I was kind of thinking it was either him or I guess Yarnell's not much of a character. He's not around very much. And then we
Who's
have the
Yarnell?
bandits, her helper, when she comes into town and he has to
Oh,
take
that's
the body
right.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Donald
he seems,
Gleason.
he seems
No, he doesn't
fine.
seem normal.
Like even the minor characters seem to have I don't know.
A
There's
thing.
always something a little bit wrong with them. Maybe except for the defense attorney. He seems to be doing his job really well, and frankly,
Yeah.
I think he's right.
He's like, this is a dirty cop
Yeah.
right here, everyone.
Exactly.
Stop
yeah.
laughing. This guy's bad.
Yeah.
And he does
Bad
it
dude.
successfully, and he does it with the passion that is deserved. But like, you don't really see him throughout the movie, so like, I don't think there's a simply good person like Norm from Fargo in here, because everybody else seems to have some crazy flaws. Either you're stupid like LaBeef, or you're like a drunk like Rooster Cogburn and just need to have everything your way, or like we were saying with Maddie, like she's got some deep problems there. Some it seems like deep philosophical problems about justice and what that means, and she has these glaring character oversights in herself. So I don't think there's anybody like simply good like Norm.
But given that,
Yeah.
then the way that men are depicted is interesting here as well, right? Because there's a lot of men because it's a Western,
Right.
But we got Lucky Ned, who seems like a pretty bad dude. He seems fair, but pretty bad.
Yeah. In a certain way, he's like the only one that you like at that point.
Yeah.
It's weird. You're like, oh, this is kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Nice to get like a
Mhm.
big important character.
But at
near
the
end
same
of
time,
movie.
he just stepped on a child's face.
But treats her nicely
You know?
otherwise.
Yeah.
You know? He's just
Yeah.
using her as a
He's
gambling
like, yeah,
piece.
have
piece.
some coffee.
He actually speaks to her as an equal too.
Yeah.
Like he's like one of the first grown men who speaks to her as an equal right from the start,
Yeah.
which is something.
Yeah, it is. Even that act of like, as uncomfortable as it is, of like putting her under his boot and being like, I'm gonna have to shoot you if like I don't have any qualms in doing this, is like in a certain way that's treating her like an equal.
Yeah,
It's a really like backwards way of doing
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
problematic. But
Well, he just shot
Maybe
one of his
he's the
men,
norm.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
she
the
just
he's the
shot-
norm.
I don't think there. Yeah, I don't think there is one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, but what about like our two main men? Like we've got LaBeef and we've got Rooster Cogburn, and they seem like they're both almost like archetypal figures. Like with LaBeef, he's the knight in shining armor archetype, right? Like he's always doing the right thing. He's the Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
And more importantly, he thinks that of himself.
Well, I'd say that's how this is being a little like making a statement or something about that archetype. Like, yes, yeah, he is thinking about him. Like he's thinking about himself. He's like, I am the good guy,
Uh-huh.
and that's funny. That's something we're laughing at the whole movie
Yeah.
because it's like you're just an idiot. Like you're you're overly sincere. Like you're not catching this stupid person.
Yeah.
Also, can I
Um,
just say, when he like rides up to the cabin and he just like waltzes in, like
Yeah.
without a
And they're
second
like,
thought, and then
no.
he comes out and confronts like 7 people on horses. It's like, what are you thinking, dude?
Like, he just
you're
freaking draws too. He's just like,
Yeah.
all right, here we go.
Yeah, just
he
go
gets
to the
mad at
house,
Rooster?
take cover, something.
And he gets mad at Rooster for like accidentally shooting him from
Yeah.
like 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
I am
like,
shot.
Hopeless.
While he's
Yeah.
like being dragged around too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
He's
the
such an
line where
idiot.
it's like, I once lapped water from a hoof print, and I was glad to have it.
If I have to meet another one of you Texas Rangers talks about, go ahead,
Oh,
Jesse.
Dude,
Do
he's
it.
like the ultimate mansplainer.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. And again, going back to like whenever they want to turn back, it's because these two dudes are getting into dumb fights, and like they're all, yeah, he's a big mansplainer, but I also found it funny that Rooster had all these one-liners about how he just keeps talking, but Rooster talks way more
Constantly.
It's just like I just think the way that they talk and they fight over dumb things, and they've both got just so much pride is like, you know, to use the overused term, the toxic masculinity
Mhm.
of ages, you know,
Agreed.
of
Yeah.
of time, you know, ever present. But
It astonishes me that Mr. LaBeef has been shot, trampled, and nearly bitten his tongue off.
And
Yet
yet-
not only does he continue to talk, but he spills the banks of English.
That was
yeah,
so good.
Also, one of my favorite moments this time around is like right after he pulls off the amazing shot against Ned Pepper. And then Maddie's like, holy shot. And he turns around and he's about to start explaining something else to her. And then he gets hit in the head.
I never noticed that.
I think he started to say, the Sharp's carbine.
And then immediately, just like he's knocked out. It's so funny because he's.
That's really funny.
Man, it's
I
so
never
great.
noticed that.
I mean, he does think he's the knight in shining armor and he's a little stupid, but like he actually does pull off some cool things. Like he is a Texas Ranger. He has gone all the way from Texas to I guess they're in Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
So he's been like nonstop tracking somebody for months, and that
Mhm.
takes like a certain amount of determination, a certain amount of
Yeah.
grit,
Yeah.
dare I say,
Ooh.
to pull off.
Ooh.
And he has that, and I think that's like a genuinely like a really cool thing. But it's just not perfect. And that's the thing about our heroes in this movie. Our heroes do heroic things, and they're not perfect for it, but they're genuinely good things.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and he's like generally a good guy too. Like he's like that's what she says. She's like, I misjudged you, and at
He
the
says
end
the
you're
same
like,
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which is cool.
And
Which is cool.
And Rooster, for as bad as he is, dude, he carries a girl like who knows how long. And he's an old fat guy, and he clearly never runs. And he's been like running for like what seems like miles. Like,
I complain about carrying my 4-year-old daughter up the stairs.
Exactly. Like the amount of like strength and determination and like will and character, that's genuinely heroic. He's a hero.
And
maybe even
that moment
too.
He's got
and I think he treats Maddie with profound respect. Like he calls the way he calls her sis. He stops the licking, like when LaBeef has the switch, and that we talk about like it was a different time, and it was, and like for him, his character to be able to be like, no, this needs to stop.
He thinks about it, right? Because he's like, he's watching it, and she's like, Rooster, are you gonna let this go on? He goes, no, don't think it will.
And he even is like, you're gonna die if you keep going. Like it's not. I mean, I guess he does kill people pretty easily,
pretty quickly.
But he's willing to stick his neck out to defend her over and over again. And again, it's not part of the deal. Yeah, to suffer this young girl to be accompanying him too, which he does kind of put up a fight about at the beginning, but then he talks to her as an equal, I guess, sharing kind of smutty stories with her. But I really love that relationship that they have.
Yeah,
and that speaks a lot to his masculinity, I would say.
Yeah, I think the reason why he pauses too from pulling out his gun is because he realizes if he does, then she's going to come with them, and he really, I think he really doesn't want that to happen. So he's just like looking, and it's like, oh no, he's enjoying this, and like I can't let this keep going. And also, I think he had a real bonding moment with her when she crosses the river, and in the old True Grit, he says, "There's a lot of myself in her," right? And you can kind of see him saying the same thing silently to himself while he lights his cigarette and just looks at her. And then when she gets out, all he says is, "That was quite a horse."
I will give you $5 for that horse.
It's like he'd talk to people about that horse.
Yeah, it's like he can't even bring up like it's like he had to say something. He couldn't compliment her, so he has to compliment the horse in a way.
Yeah.
But he's admiring her in that moment. Like, yeah, this girl is made of the same sort of stuff that I am. Yeah, I do love the connection they have there. Yeah. Is there anything else that we want to talk about in terms of masculinity?
I just want to like close a loop with it, which is I don't know. It seems like both Rooster. I mean, Rooster is a total jerk outside of his relationship with her and like encounter.
Oh yeah,
he was a marauder for the South. Like he burned and pillaged and raped. Like that's something that he says he never killed women and children. So I mean, he's done horrible shit. And like he's somehow like he's wanted in the state of New Mexico as a bank robber. Like he robbed banks and killed people to steal money. Like he hunts people down for doing the same thing now in Arkansas. This is not a guy who is typically a good like protagonist.
Only in westerns, man.
Well,
only in westerns.
Only in westerns, yeah. But it's interesting because both of these guys they kind of appear as archetypes, sort of like. I mean, I don't think there's any way that you could say Rooster Cogburn, like he seems to me to be sort of like taking on the mantle of the archetype of John Wayne, sort of anti-hero heroes, sort of anti-hero heroes. And LaBeef is like, the white knight cowboy, straight up white hat, like the Roy Rogers type. But they're both very flawed. In this movie, he's very concerned with showing their actual flaws in the way that Unforgiven was concerned with it, but rather than taking just a hard line, like these are bad people, like this is the whole genre is evil, it makes a really fun movie, makes these characters really fun. And it's interesting how this story inserts this child, this young girl into the story, and she becomes this neutralizing effect on both of them, turning them into sort of their best selves. It seems like to me, they become heroes by their encounter with her.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I'd say that's a depiction of masculinity. Men without women suck. I don't know.
Sometimes kids bring something. Yeah.
Kids kids and women kind of help make them true dads, because that's the ultimate dad or ultimate man. The dad.
The dad man.
The dad man.
So speaking of dad men,
is this a dad movie?
Sounds like Mike's thesis just now was that it definitely is.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a dad movie. This movie's great. I really love it. And I'm really excited to show it to my kids. Yeah, it's a good one. For all the reasons that I just said, that we've just talked about. Like, it's really, really fun. It's got some deep sort of questions and answers and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Things and stuff and whatever. Liz, is this a dad movie?
I give this movie 2 dads up.
2 dads up. Yes.
2 dads. That means only 2 of us are up for this movie.
Or 3 dads. Let's do
3 dads. All right,
3
dads. As far as we know.
Yes. Well, I also am going to say it's definitely a dad movie. Like, for growing up in the West, and like the legacy of the Western is always going to be important to me. And I love it when something takes a different look at it in a different way. It helps me almost like reframe how I grew up in the ways that I used to think. And that's really important when I teach my kids things, is where I came from and how to translate that into something, better and more healthy. Not like I had a bad upbringing, but everyone needs to translate what they learned into something more healthy for their kids. I think that's universally true. And in a lot of ways, Westerns kind of are that journey for me, because I grew up with so many of them. So yeah, it's a dad movie, and I can't wait to talk to my kids about what it all meant and why it's important to me.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, I kind of have the same thing going on. This is definitely a dad movie. Can't wait to show it to my kids. And frankly, I love this movie so much that I'm going to watch this movie regularly, and I want my kids to always associate the 2010 True Grit with me. I want them to think about that movie with me.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think this is one of the first episodes that we've ever done where we haven't even said anything bad about the movie.
No.
Yeah. I don't think we said a single bad thing.
No.
Nothing bad.
There was nothing bad to say. The only possible criticism, if I'm reaching, is I slightly prefer the way that John Wayne says, "Fill your hands, you son of a bitch," to the way Jeff Bridges says it. Mm. It's like the only thing I could possibly think of. Only because when I was a kid, that was the most badass thing you could say. And there was very few things as shocking as the first time of seeing True Grit with Jeff Bridges and being like, what? That's not right. You didn't say it right. Try again.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I like the way they both say it. Yeah, but hardly anything.
I shall not niggle.
No, I don't think anybody
was
not
a
as much
little
as
long.
Maddie, at least.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
we can all niggle a little bit.
I've been trying to quote the movie as much as possible in this episode.
This is definitely a dad movie. We're all huge fans of this one. And yeah, I'm really happy I guess we're not concluding our Modern Western series. We were going to with this movie, but we actually have another one coming up soon.
A very special request.
Very special request. And since we had no new releases that we wanted to do in the month of September, we said, absolutely we will.
Of course.
It's going to be Tombstone.
Tombstone! Yeah.
Can't wait.
Hell's coming with us.
That's right. We're going to have friend of the pod, Isaac, on there with us, and can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun.
He'll be our Huckleberry, for sure.
Every day.
Well, all right, guys. I think we're going to call it a night. From all of us, I'm Jesse.
I'm Mike.
I'm Vito.
And I'm Liz.
Have a good night.